Have you ever wondered how some of the biggest, richest car companies in the world manage to build absolute garbage? What if I told you that one car on this list caused one of the most horrifying scandals in automotive history, or that another vehicle was so disastrous it nearly wiped out an iconic American luxury brand forever? You might even have one of these rolling nightmares sitting in your garage right now. Today, we are pulling back the curtain and counting down the 15 worst cars ever produced in the United States. We are going from number 15 all the way down to number 1, which stands as the absolute worst automotive disaster in American history. Some of these cars looked amazing on paper, but hid terrible engineering mistakes under the hood. One of them was so dangerously flawed it changed U.S. car safety laws forever. Another was so poorly built that frustrated owners joked it might literally fall apart before reaching the end of the street. Trust me, you will want to stay until the very end to discover the shocking story behind the car that takes our number 1 spot. The dark corporate cover-ups will leave you totally speechless. Let's dive in. Number 15. Cadillac Cimarron, 1982 to 1988. Produced from 1982 to 1988, Cadillac was the undisputed king of American luxury, a symbol of extreme wealth and status. They promised the Cimarron would be a sporty, sophisticated, compact luxury sedan designed to compete directly with BMW. But what did buyers actually get? A massive betrayal. The Cimarron was literally just a cheap Chevrolet Cavalier wearing a fancy suit. Cadillac simply swapped out the badges, added a little leather, and doubled the price tag. Under the hood, it had a sluggish 4-cylinder engine that aggressively struggled to merge onto the highway. Owners were furious when their expensive luxury cars started breaking down with the exact same cheap issues as a baseline Chevy. The Cimarron was so disastrous, it nearly destroyed Cadillac's reputation permanently. But the next car makes this one look like a masterpiece. Number 14. AMC Pacer, 1975 to 1980. Produced from 1975 to 1980, AMC heavily marketed it as the first wide small car. The manufacturer promised a futuristic space-age commuter vehicle that was easy to park but roomy inside. The reality was a heavy, underpowered glass bowl on wheels. Because the car featured massive, oversized windows, driving the Pacer on a sunny day felt like sitting inside a boiling greenhouse. The air conditioning system was entirely too weak to cool down the massive cabin, leaving drivers drenched in sweat. Worse, the passenger door was bizarrely longer than the driver's door, causing the massive hinges to sag and break constantly. It became a national punchline overnight. The Pacer was incredibly ugly, but the vehicle coming up at number 13 was so depressing to drive it made people want to walk. Number 13. Chevrolet Chevette, 1976 to 1987. America was reeling from a massive oil crisis when this car debuted. Chevrolet promised a reliable, hyper-efficient commuter car to save families money at the gas pump. The Chevette was supposed to be the hero of the decade. Instead, it was a completely disposable cardboard box on wheels. The build quality was astonishingly bad. The cabin offered zero sound insulation, meaning highway drives were deafening. Under the hood, the engine was so dangerously sluggish that merging into fast-moving traffic became a daily near-death experience. Real owners reported that the exceptionally thin floorboards would rust completely through within a few short years, letting you see the road rushing by beneath your feet. The Chevette was dirt cheap, but our next car was an absurd luxury experiment that left everyone scratching their heads. Number 12. Chrysler Executive, 1983 to 1986. Produced from 1983 to 1986, Chrysler desperately wanted to attract elite business tycoons. They promised a high-end, prestigious limousine that would redefine American corporate travel. But the reality was incredibly embarrassing. Chrysler essentially took their budget-friendly front-wheel drive K-car platform, sliced it in half, and welded a massive extension into the middle. They powered this heavy Frankenstein monster with a laughably weak 4-cylinder engine. The car physically struggled to move its own weight, groaning loudly every time the driver pressed the gas pedal.
The proportions were unbelievably awkward, and the handling was terrifyingly loose. Elite buyers took one look at it and laughed, preferring traditional rear-wheel drive luxury cars. It is remembered as the saddest limousine ever manufactured. But as weird as that limo was, it's nothing compared to the absolute design disaster coming up at number 11.
Number 11. Pontiac Aztek, produced from 2001 to 2005. Pontiac promised the Aztek would be the ultimate active lifestyle vehicle for adventurous millennials. It was supposed to revolutionize SUVs. Instead, the reality was widely considered the ugliest car ever made in human history. Covered in cheap-looking, excessive plastic body cladding, the Aztek had bizarre proportions that made it look like a rolling dumpster. Drivers quickly discovered the massive rear pillars completely destroyed rear visibility, making it incredibly dangerous to back up. While it did feature some quirky practical ideas, like a built-in tent and a center console cooler, nobody cared. Real owners were mocked relentlessly at traffic lights, and dealerships couldn't give them away. It was a complete public relations nightmare that killed Pontiac's momentum. The Aztek was a visual nightmare, but at least it didn't literally melt in the sun like our next automotive tragedy. Number 10. Bricklin SV1, 1974 to 1975. Produced during a brief window from 1974 to 1975, an ambitious entrepreneur named Malcolm Bricklin promised the world a futuristic, ultra-safe sports car equipped with exotic gull-wing doors. It looked like a spaceship. But the reality was a horrific engineering failure. Instead of fiberglass or steel, the body panels were made of an experimental acrylic resin. When owners parked their expensive new sports cars outside on hot summer days, the plastic body panels literally warped, buckled, and melted in the sunlight. The incredibly heavy motorized doors were prone to electrical failures, frequently trapping terrified drivers inside their roasting cars if the battery unexpectedly died. The engines overheated constantly. It was a colossal financial flop that went bankrupt spectacularly. A melting car sounds unbelievable, but the vehicle coming up at number 9 stalled so often it practically lived on the side of the road. Number 9. Dodge Aspen and Plymouth Valera, 1976 to 1980. Produced from 1976 to 1980, Chrysler confidently promised these twin cars would be the incredibly smooth-riding family vehicles of the future. The reality was a complete quality control nightmare. These cars rusted faster than almost anything else on the road. Frustrated owners watched helplessly as their front fenders completely rotted away within months of leaving the dealership lot. Even worse, the engines suffered from a terrifying vapor lock defect. The cars would unpredictably stall out in busy intersections or while cruising at highway speeds. Millions of these vehicles had to be hastily recalled, utterly devastating Chrysler's reputation for reliability and nearly forcing the company into total bankruptcy. The Aspen was a complete rust bucket, but the car at number 8 was such a monumental failure, its name literally became a synonym for a disastrous flop. Number 8. Ford Edsel, 1958 to 1960. Produced from 1958 to 1960, Ford poured hundreds of millions of dollars into relentless hype, promising the American public the absolute car of tomorrow. When the cover was finally pulled back, the reality was a shocking disappointment. The public hated the bizarre styling, especially the vertical front grille that critics famously compared to a toilet seat. But the engineering was even worse. Ford placed the push-button transmission controls dead center inside the steering wheel hub. Real drivers, attempting to casually honk the horn in traffic, would accidentally press a button and throw the moving car into reverse, destroying the transmission instantly. The cars leaked oil relentlessly and rattled violently. The Edsel was a marketing disaster that cost Ford a fortune. But our next car proves that retro styling can go horribly, horribly wrong.
Number 7. Chevrolet SSR 2003 to 2006. Produced from 2003 to 2006, Chevrolet promised to deliver a cool, convertible, retro hot rod pickup truck that would turn heads everywhere. The reality was a vehicle suffering from a severe identity crisis. It was entirely too heavy to be considered a fast sports car, and the tiny carpeted bed made it completely useless as a pickup truck. Powered by a sluggish engine struggling to pull nearly 5,000 pounds, its performance was painfully disappointing. To make matters worse, the heavy retractable hardtop violently shook the chassis every time it drove over a bump. Owners paid an exorbitant luxury price tag for a vehicle that excelled at absolutely nothing. The SSR was a confused, overweight mess, but this next failure was a so-called European luxury car that felt like a cheap scam.
Number 6. Ford Mustang II, 1974 to 1978. Produced from 1974 to 1978, Ford promised a smart, fuel-efficient evolution of the legendary Mustang to combat soaring gas prices. The reality was an absolute insult to automotive enthusiasts everywhere. Ford secretly built this so-called muscle car on the chassis of the notoriously cheap Ford Pinto. It was asthmatically slow, equipped with a weak four-cylinder engine or an optional V8 that produced an incredibly pathetic 88 horsepower. Family station wagons could easily beat it in a drag race. The suspension wallowed wildly in corners, and the interior felt instantly cheap. Real owners felt utterly humiliated driving a Mustang that looked like a compact grocery getter. The Mustang II betrayed everything the brand stood for. It was a total joke. But this next failure was a so-called European luxury car that felt like a cheap scam.
Number 5. Chrysler TC by Maserati, 1989 to 1991. Produced from 1989 to 1991, Chrysler promised a gorgeous, high-performance Italian-American hybrid luxury convertible that would dominate the elite market. The reality was arguably the most cynical cash grab in automotive history. It was essentially a standard, cheap Chrysler LeBaron with a Maserati badge violently slapped onto the grille. Chrysler charged buyers double the price of a regular LeBaron, but the car offered absolutely no real performance upgrades. Production was incredibly rushed across the ocean, meaning the Italian interior panels rarely matched the American dashboard correctly. It rattled, it leaked, and it was terribly slow. Buyers instantly saw right through the illusion, leaving the cars to rot on dealership lots. That fake Maserati was bad, but the story behind number 4 is even worse. It was a hot rod that forgot how to go fast. Number 4. Plymouth Prowler, 1997 to 2002. Produced from 1997 to 2002, Plymouth promised a wildly aggressive, factory-built hot rod that would bring thrilling performance back to the streets. Visually, it looked like an absolute monster with its open front wheels and sleek wedge-shaped body. The reality, Plymouth ripped out the soul of the car by stuffing a weak minivan V6 under the hood. Even worse, they refused to offer a manual transmission, forcing buyers to use a sluggish, joyless 4-speed automatic. The trunk was so laughably small that owners couldn't even fit a single bag of groceries inside. It was entirely all show and zero go. The Prowler was a massive letdown for speed lovers. However, the car at number 3 was so terrifyingly dangerous, it forever changed the way the government regulates the auto industry. Number 3. Chevrolet Corvair, 1960 to 1969. Produced from 1960 to 1969, GM promised a revolutionary rear-engine American car designed to easily defeat the Volkswagen Beetle. The reality was a certified death trap. Chevrolet engineers tried to save money by omitting a crucial stabilizing sway bar on the complex swing axle suspension. Real drivers quickly found out that taking a corner slightly too fast resulted in sudden, violent snap oversteer. The rear wheels would suddenly tuck underneath the car, causing the Corvair to aggressively flip over. To make matters worse, the solid steering column acted like a spear, threatening to impale the driver in a front-end crash. Consumer advocate Ralph Nader wrote a legendary book exposing it, sparking absolute outrage. The Corvair was fundamentally flawed. But this next car makes this one look like a masterpiece, literally falling apart before your eyes. Number 2. Chevrolet Vega, 1971 to 1977. Produced from 1971 to 1977, Chevrolet promised an affordable, technologically advanced compact car that would crush foreign competition. The reality was an absolute insult to automotive enthusiasts everywhere. Ford secretly built this so-called muscle car on the chassis of the notoriously cheap Ford Pinto. It was asthmatically slow, equipped with a weak four-cylinder engine or an optional V8 that produced an incredibly pathetic 88 horsepower. Family station wagons could easily beat it in a drag race. The suspension wallowed wildly in corners, and the interior felt instantly cheap. Real owners felt utterly humiliated driving a Mustang that looked like a compact grocery getter. The Vega was an absolute piece of junk, but this next disaster was nothing compared to our #1 spot, which caused a controversy that still shocks historians today.
Number 1. Ford Pinto, 1971 to 1980. Taking the title of the worst car in American history is the Ford Pinto, produced from 1971 to 1980. Ford promised a cheap, lightweight, and reliable subcompact car for the masses. What they actually delivered was the darkest, most horrifying engineering scandal the industry had ever seen. Ford blindly rushed the Pinto into production, placing the fuel tank directly behind the rear axle with virtually no structural protection. The reality was terrifying. Even a low-speed rear-end collision could cause the gas tank to violently puncture and instantly explode, trapping drivers inside an inferno. But what happened next shocked the entire automotive industry. Internal documents, famously known as the Pinto Memo, revealed that Ford executives knew exactly how deadly the car was. They literally calculated that paying off wrongful death lawsuits to mourning families would be cheaper than installing an $11 plastic part to protect the gas tank. The Ford Pinto isn't just a bad vehicle, it represents the ultimate corporate betrayal. It stands as the absolute worst car in American history because the manufacturer prioritized a few dollars in profit over human life. Thankfully, the terrifying failures of the Pinto, the Corvair, and the rest of these automotive disasters changed the auto industry forever. These colossal mistakes forced the creation of strict modern safety standards, rigorous crash testing, and massive quality control improvements. Today, modern cars are infinitely safer, more reliable, and heavily regulated, precisely because we learned from the horrifying nightmares of the past. Which of these automotive disasters shocked you the most? Did you or your family ever own one of these terrible cars? Drop a comment down below and let us know your story. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another deep dive into automotive history. We'll see you in the next one.